Welcome to Reddit Story Lane, where the best Reddit tales come to life. Have you ever felt like your entire world was turned upside down by the very people you thought you could trust most? This story begins with betrayal, but it's also one of strength, resilience, and hard-earned vindication. Let me take you through the harrowing journey that has shaped my life, a journey I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. It starts with my younger brother, David, a person who made my childhood hell and whose actions later unraveled the family I worked so hard to build. If you're thinking this was a story of sibling rivalry, think again. David wasn't just a sibling, he was the golden child, favored and doted on by our mother while I was left to fend for myself. From the earliest days, David's antics were excused as boys being boys. He'd tease me relentlessly about my height, my glasses, even my quiet, bookish nature. Once, he went so far as to put stones in my cereal. When I confronted our mom, she laughed it off, saying, "This is how brothers bond." I wasn't laughing. But the emotional toll went beyond pranks. David's taunts turned vicious, aligning himself with school bullies who made my life unbearable. Once, during an argument, he told me to kill myself. That moment cut deeper than any other, especially since I was already struggling with my mental health. I'll never forget the sting of those words. My dad, often away for work, remained oblivious to most of this. When he was around, he saw only glimpses of David's behavior. That changed when David crossed a line even our mother couldn't ignore. He tried to set my hair on fire. My dad finally stepped in, threatening to call the police. For the first time, David faced consequences. And for the first time, I felt like someone in my family had my back. My father's support marked a turning point. He enrolled me in MMA classes, urging me to stand up for myself. It was transformative. I wasn't just learning to fight, I was reclaiming my sense of self. When David tried to steal from me again, I didn't back down. A single punch was enough to send him reeling, physically and emotionally. It was a small victory, but it shifted the dynamics. David realized he couldn't push me around anymore. Yet, his bitterness only grew. By the time I left for university, our relationship was irreparably fractured. The day I moved out felt like a liberation. University was a fresh start, and for the first time, I experienced what life could be like without David's shadow looming over me. It was during my second year that I met Karen. She was everything David wasn't: kind, supportive, and understanding. We fell in love, and by the time graduation rolled around, we were married and expecting our first child. I thought I had finally left the chaos of my childhood behind. But life has a cruel way of catching up with you. Karen and I built a life together, raising our son and navigating the ups and downs of marriage. I trusted her implicitly, even forgiving her when she confessed to an affair early in our relationship. I chalked it up to youthful mistakes, determined to keep our family intact. Then, 3 months ago, everything unraveled. Karen confessed she had been having a long-term affair and that our son might not be mine. The shock was paralyzing. But it wasn't just the affair that broke me, it was the revelation of who she'd been with. David. Hearing his name felt like a dagger to the heart. Karen explained that their relationship had started years ago, back when she spent time with my family during the holidays. David, usually cold and distant with me, had been warm and charming with her. What started as friendly banter escalated into something far more insidious. Karen's confession was a flood of details I didn't want to hear: the secret meetings, the lies about working late, the romantic getaways disguised as business trips. She claimed she'd felt trapped, unsure how to end it. But her words rang hollow. The betrayal was too deep. I packed my bags and left that night. Karen begged me to stay, invoking our son and the life we'd built together. But how could I? Trust, once shattered, is nearly impossible to rebuild. The next day, I went straight to my parents. I laid everything out: Karen's affair, David's involvement, the years of deceit. My mother, ever the defender of her golden child, refused to believe it. But my father, usually reserved, demanded answers. We called David while my parents listened silently. At first, he denied everything. But when I revealed that Karen had confessed, his facade crumbled. He blamed her, calling her characterless and claiming it wasn't his fault if women found him attractive. His arrogance was infuriating, but it served its purpose. My parents finally saw him for who he truly was. My father's response was swift and decisive. He cut David off financially, revoking his college funds and refusing to support him further. For someone who had always relied on our parents' indulgence, this was a devastating blow. David tried to protest, but my father silenced him with a simple truth: you've not only betrayed your brother, but this entire family. For the first time, David faced the full weight of his actions. And for the first time, I felt a sense of justice. In the aftermath, I focused on rebuilding my life. I filed for divorce and sought therapy to process the betrayal. The road ahead is daunting, but I'm determined to move forward for myself and for the son I've loved since the day he was born, regardless of his paternity. The road ahead is daunting, but I'm determined to move forward for myself and for the son I've loved since the day he was born, regardless of his paternity. David's actions cost him everything: his family's support, his financial stability, and any semblance of respect. As for Karen, she's left to grapple with the consequences of her choices. I don't know what the future holds for either of them, but I'm finally free from their toxicity. Life has a way of testing us in unimaginable ways. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: sometimes, walking away is the bravest thing you can do.